Let us begin with a quadratic equation. A quadratic equation is in the form ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. A quadratic equation being a second degree equation has two roots. Whatever the degree of the equation, that is the number of roots. We will go to that later. Now, the roots of a quadratic equation based on quadratic formula are minus b plus this quantity over 2a, and the other is minus. So the only difference between x1 and x2, the two roots, are this, or is this. This is plus, this is minus. So, the common thing that is encountered in the board exam are those involving sum of roots and product of roots. So, in here, when we get x1 plus x2, this plus this, in as much as their denominators are the same, we can simply add their numerators. So we have here minus b plus minus b, that is minus 2b. This plus this, one is plus, the other is minus, they will cancel out. So what will be left will be minus 2b over the denominator, that is 2a. 2 will cancel, so this is going to be equal to minus b over a. So as you can see here, the sum of roots x1 plus x2 is given by minus b over a. It means the sum of roots is not dependent upon the coefficient c. What is the implication of that? The implication is this. If you have two or more quadratic equations with the same a and b, even if their c are different, then the sum of roots will still be the same. For example, we have the equation x squared, a is 1, b is, let us say, 3, x plus 2 is equal to 0. And you have another equation with the same a and b. X squared plus 3x minus 4 is equal to 0. Definitely, this equation and this equation have different roots because they are having different values of c. Different c, different equation, different roots. Let us solve them. So, I will just use factoring here. Factors of 2 to make 3, they are 2 and 1. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. So, this is x plus 2. Then this is x plus 1 equals 0. So, if you check 2x plus 1x, that is 3x. X times x is x squared. 2 times 1 is 2. So, correct. So, this times this is equal to 0. So, each must be equated to 0. X plus 2 equals 0. So, you have here x is equal to minus 2. While in here, x plus 1 equals 0. So, x is equal to minus 1. So, the roots of this equation are minus 2 and minus 1. Look, if I'm going to add x1 plus x2, it's minus 2 plus minus 1, that is minus 3. While this equation, let us solve the roots. Factors of minus 4 to make 3, they are plus 3 and minus 1. Okay? So, here, x squared is x and x. X times x is x squared. Right? So, you have here factors of minus 4 to make plus 3. They are plus 4 and minus 1. 4 times minus 1 is minus 4. 4x minus 1x is 3x. So, that's correct. So, this times this is equal to 0. So, each must be equated to 0. X plus 4 equals 0. And x minus 1 equals 0. So, if x plus 4 is 0, x is going to be equal to minus 4. If x minus 1 is 0, so x is equal to 1. So, if you will check the sum of roots, x1 plus x2 It's minus 4 plus 1, that is minus 3. Look at the roots, at the sum of roots of the two equations. The roots are different, minus 2 and minus 1 for this, minus 4 and 1 for this one. They have different roots because they have differences. But because they have the same A and B, 1 and 3. Since sum of roots is also given by the formula minus B over A, then the sum of the roots are the same. Both of them are minus 3 over 1, negative 3, as expected. Minus 3 over 1, that is minus 3, as expected. Do you follow? So if you have two or more quadratic equations, if you have A and B the same, even their C's are different, the sum of the roots will be the same. Now, let us have the product of roots. Now, the difference between x1 and x2 is just, this is plus, this is minus. If you recall, x plus y times x minus y, the product of sum and difference, that is x squared minus y squared. That is the difference of two squares. Because yx minus yx, they will cancel out. So you have x squared minus y times y, y squared. So if we take now x1 times x2, this times this, let me begin with the denominator. So 2a times 2a, that would be 4a squared. Then minus b times plus this one times minus this plus minus product of sum and difference. That would be the square of the first, parang x squared, that's minus b quantity squared minus the square of this, square root of b squared minus 4ac quantity squared. So simplifying this, this will be minus b times minus b, that's plus b squared, minus square root squared, they will cancel each other out. So that will leave us b squared minus 4ac all over 4a squared. So b squared minus b squared, this will cancel. Minus and minus plus. So we are left with 4ac over 4a squared. 4 will cancel out. A will cancel out also. So this will give us x1 times x2 is equal to c over a. Now, as you can see here, the product of roots now depends only on C and A. Walang pakialam yung B. The implication of this is also the same as the implication of this. If you have two or more quadratic equations with the same A and C, they will have the same product of roots, although the roots are different. Magkaiba yung numbers, pero yung product nila will be the same. Basta parehas lang yung A and C. Let us have this application. In a quadratic equation problem, one student made a mistake in copying the coefficient of x and got a root of plus 3 and minus 2. Another student made a mistake in copying the constant term and got this time a root of plus 3 and plus 2. The question is, find the correct roots and the correct equation. Let us say that the correct equation is ax squared plus bx plus C is equal to 0. We want the correct equation, so we need the values of A, B, and C, respectively. Now, our first student made a mistake in copying the coefficient of X, that is B. So, meaning his equation was AX squared plus X plus C equals 0. We do not know what number he used for B, but what we are sure of is this number is different from that of the correct equation. So, he solved this equation either by quadratic formula, factoring, or by calculator. Now, he solved this and found the roots to be plus 3 and negative 2. I would presume that these roots are correct roots for the wrong equation. But since the wrong equation and the correct equation are different, the roots of the wrong equation and the roots of the correct equation are different. We're not after the roots of the wrong equation. We are after the roots of the correct equation. Once we know the values of A, B, and C, the roots are simple. Okay. Now let us have the second student. This time, the second student made a mistake in copying the coefficient. So, he copied the equation AX squared plus BX, but when he copied C, he made a mistake. Perhaps he misread it. So, he used here a number other than that of the original equation. So, he solved this equation just the same, and he found the roots to be plus 3 and plus 2. We want the correct equation. Now, for the first student's equation, its B is different from the B of the original equation. But their A and their C are the same. If their A and C are the same, I know you will agree that the C over A of the correct equation must be equal to C over A of the first student's equation. Parehas lang sila ng C over A. Now, so, we said that from our derived equation, that C over A of a quadratic equation is equal to what? It's equal to the product of roots. So, this is the same as x1 times x2 of the original equation and also of the first student's equation. So we say here that C over A of the correct equation is also x1 times x2 of equation of the first student, which is 3 times negative 2. So we say now that C over A of this correct equation must be equal to minus 6. Let me call this equation 1. For the second student's equation, the C of this and the C of the correct equation are different, but their B and A are the same. So we therefore say that the B over A of the correct equation must be equal to B over A of the second student's equation, right? Correct. Because their A and their B are identical. So if I will both multiply by negative, they remain equal. But what is minus B over A of a quadratic equation? It is equal to x1 plus x2 of that equation. So we say that minus B over A of both the correct equation and the second student's equation equals x1 plus x2 of the equation. So we say that negative b over a of the correct equation is 3 plus 2 of this equation. If I will multiply everything by negative, we will have here b over a is going to be minus of 5. So this is minus 5. Let me call this equation 2. I have here two equations between A, B, and C. Two equations but three unknowns, A, B, and C. So kailangan di ba we say that for equations to be solvable, dapat the number of equations must be equal to the number of roots. So we still lack one equation. However, this equation is a Diophantine equations. We will learn about Diophantine equations in our future discussion. Okay? Now, however, look at the correct equation. A, B, and C. But both equations 1 and 2 are in terms of over A. Now, let me divide everything here by A. So, if I now consider the correct equation, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. If I'm going to divide everything by a, 0 over a is 0. So I have here a over a, I have x squared plus b over a x plus c over a is 0 over a, 0. I know the value of this, b over a is minus 5. I know c over a is minus 6. So I therefore have here x squared plus b over a, which is minus 5, x plus c over a minus 6 equals 0. So therefore, the correct equation is x squared minus 5x minus 6 equals 0. This is your correct equation. So for the correct roots, they are the roots of the correct equation. So you solve this using your calculator or simply use factoring. Factors of minus 6 to get minus 5, they are minus 6 and plus 1. Minus 6 times 1 is minus 6. Minus 6 plus 1 is minus 5. So x squared is x and x. X times x is x squared. Minus 6 times 1 is minus 6. Minus 6x plus 1x is minus 5x. So they are correct factors. So this times this is equal to 0. So you multiply them equals 0. So each must be equated to 0. X minus 6 is 0. X plus 1 is 0. So therefore you have x equals 6 and x equals minus 1. So the correct roots are 6 and minus 1. So ang tatandaan nyo, if a and b are the same, the sum of roots are the same. If A and C are the same, the product of roots are the same. Pagdating naman sa age problem, ang prinsipo lang ito. The time elapsed for all persons concerned are equal. yung itinatanda ng lahat ng taong pinag-uusapan pare-parehas lang. Natural, di ba? Halimbawa, in 5 years time, kayo tatanda ng 5 years. Ako, 5 years din. Imposible naman tumanda ako ng 5 years, kayo 2 years, right? Pwedeng mangyari magkaiba yung itatanda ng mukha natin. Kunwari, ikaw pala smile. Hindi masyadong tatanda yung mukha mo. Ako halimbawa pala si Mangot. Yung mukha ko tatanda ng mas malaki ang itsura sa 5 years. So, pero sa board exam, wala kayong makikitang face problem, di ba? Ang meron, age problem. Pagdating sa age, kahit anong mangyari sa mukha, ang itatanda ng age, parehas lang. So, lahat ng tao, parehas lang ang itatanda. Future age minus present age ng lahat ng tao, parehas. Present age minus past age, parehas lang lahat. Yon ang principle ng age problem. So, simple subtraction lang ang principle. Hindi complicated. Ang medyo kailangan nyo lang tignan mabuti yung grammar. Dahil marami ini-interpret na literal interpretation yung age problem, pero hindi pwedeng lahat literal interpretation, lalo na kung mga conditional or yung tinatawag nating compound sentence. Gawa natin ng example. A man is 3 times as old as his son. So this is a simple sentence. If it is a simple sentence, the key is literal interpretation. Walang mga ibang condition. A man is. If it is a simple sentence, it is understood that the time for the second person involved is also the same as the first. If this is, this must also be son is. Except if there is a separate prescription for the son. So, let us tabulate this. Man, son. Was, is, then will be. According to the first statement, a man is, son is. Man is, son is. Is what? 3 times son is. If the son is X, man is 3X. Second sentence. 5 years ago, so this is a conditional statement. Meaning, what happens next happens 5 years ago. So he was, during 5 years ago, 5 times as old as his son was at the time. This phrase was at that time, this is redundant. Meaning, even if you don't say that, it's understood that we are referring to the age of the son when? 5 years ago. Because that is a condition. So, 5 years ago, the man was 5 times as old as his son. If his son 5 years ago was Y, the man was 5Y. So, our key equation will be this one. Isama natin yung sarili mo. Ha? For example, you are now 20. 5 years ago, you were what? 15. So, yung time elapsed for you, for the son and for the man are the same. 20 minus 15 is what? 5. So, that's why X minus Y is equal to 5. 3X minus 5Y will also be equal to 5. The years elapsed for persons involved are always equal. Okay? So, the question is, how old is the son? The son is X years old. So, we need X. So, let us eliminate Y by multiplying everything by 5. So, you will have here 5 times X minus 5 times Y is 5 times 5. That is 25. So, subtracting the two, 5Y minus 5Y cancel. 3X minus 5X, this is minus 2X. 5 minus 25 minus 20. So, x is minus 20 over minus 2. X is 10. So, therefore, the son is 10 years old. Example number 2. 2 years ago, a boy is 2/3 as old as his sister. In 2 years, he will be 3/4 as old as she. How old are they? So this is the boy, his sister, then 3 columns, was, is, will be. Past, present, future. So this is a condition 2 years ago. So meaning, whatever follows happens 2 years ago. So, a boy is, this is not the is of present. This is 2 years ago. So, this is actually a was. Ito yung tinatawag nating past perfect tense. So, although this is, it is referring to 2 years ago. Yan yung ginagamit sa news reporting and storytelling. Once upon a time, pero ang form ng verb na ginagamit, present. Pero hindi ibig sabihin the event is present, but once upon a time. Past perfect tense. Present form of verb, but the event is past. So, 2 years ago, that refers to this. A boy is 2/3 as old as his sister. So, if his sister was X, the boy was 2/3 of X. In 2 years, this is future, meaning 2 years from now. He, the boy, that refers to this one, will be 3/4 as old as she. If his sister is Y, then the boy will be 3/4 of Y. How old are they? Meaning, how old are they at present? Now, look here. These are their ages 2 years ago. So, at present, if this is the age 2 years ago, what will be their age at present? Parang ganito. If you're 20 years old 2 years ago, how old are you now? That would be 20 plus 2, right? So, this would be X plus 2. This is 2/3 X plus 2. Basically, we need to solve X. Now, the key equation in solving age problem is simply, as we said, the time elapsed are equal. From 2 years ago to 2 years from now, this is a span of 4 years, right? So, the age of boy in 2 years, that is 3/4 of Y minus his age 2 years ago, that is 2/3 of X, will be the years involved or the years elapsed. So this must be 4. Let me call this equation 1. Now, the second equation is the age of sister 2 years from now minus her age 2 years ago, Y minus X will also be equal to 4. The time elapsed or years elapsed for all people involved are equal. So let us call this equation 2. 2 equations, 2 unknowns. You follow? So if you will do this using your calculator, then you'll be able to solve X, you'll be able to solve Y. You can either solve this using your calculator or you can solve this manually. So, practice tayo mag-solve manual. This is why gawin natin tong Y by multiplying everything by 4/3. 4/3 times 3/4, that would be Y, no? 4/3 times minus 2/3, that is 8 9 minus 8, 9 of x. 4/3 times 4, that is 16 over 3. So, kopyahin natin yung equation 2, y minus x equals 4. So, we now subtract. So, minus minus, this would be plus. Tama? Okay. So, you have here 8 minus 8, 9 plus x. This would be plus 1, 9 of x is equal to 16 over 3 minus 4 over 3. On your calculator, that is 4 over 3. Solving our x, that would be 9 times 4 over 3, or 9 over 3, 3 times 4, this is 12. So, x is 12, so the boy 2 years ago was 2/3 x. At present, he is 2/3 x plus 2. 2/3 of x plus 2. 2/3 of 12 is 8 plus 2. This is 10 years old. This is the age of the boy. And x plus 2 is 12 plus 2. This is 14. This is the age of the boy's sister. Another type of problem encountered in the board exam is the sum of age problem. We are not talking here of individuals' ages, but rather the sum of group of individuals. For example, in this problem, we talk of sum of parents' ages versus sum of their children's ages. Now, in this problem, we will apply the theory of most likely possibility. That theory is not formalized but normally applied in most complicated problems. Like, for example, the problems mostly encountered in Mathematics Olympiad. So, if there are many possibilities, most likely the reason why the author did not specify it, he was thinking of the most obvious. I also call this the theory of the obvious. Now, we are talking here of parents' ages. Of course, hindi sinabi how many couples or parents are there. But if that would be your frame of mind, you will not be able to solve the problem. So most likely the reason why the examiner or the one who framed the question did not mention the number of parents is because he was talking of only one pair of parents, one couple. Meaning, the number of parents is nanay, tatay, there are only two persons. Now, we do not know here the number of children. Let us say that there are n children. So, 2 parents, n children. 5 years ago, the sum of parents' ages is 4 times the sum of their children's ages. We are talking always of sum of ages. Now, the question is, how many children are there? This is an age problem, but we're not asked to solve an age, but the number of people. Now, the technique here is this. Represent the average age of the people whose number you do not know yet. In this equation, the children. Now, talking of average is simply sum over n. Right? So, we say now that sum is going to be equal to n times average. If the average age is A, multiply that by the number of persons, you get the sum of ages. Now, let me tabulate here the sum of ages. The sum of ages of parents and the sum of ages of their children. So let me specify here, huh? Two parents and children. Two couples, huh? One mother, one father. Two persons. Let us divide this into three columns. Was, is, and will be. We are talking here of sum of ages. Now, the sum of ages is n times average. If the average age of children at present is A, the sum of ages of children at present is n times A. And the average age of children 5 years ago will be A minus 5. Why A minus 5? Because of this. Suppose at present, you have 3 children. Example, whose ages are 9, 10, and 11. The average age of 9, 10, and 11 is 9 plus 10 plus 11, that's 30, divided by 3. 30 divided by 3 is 10, the average. Or average is also known as mid value. That is the mathematical shortcut. The mid value of 9, 10, and 11 obviously is 10. That is the average. So these are their ages at present. 5 years ago, their ages were 9 minus 5, 4, 10 minus 5, 5, 11 minus 5, 6. The average of 4, 5, and 6 is 5. Each age decreased by 5, the average also decreased by 5. So if at present the average age of children is A, 5 years ago it's A minus 5, and in 15 years or 15 years from now, it would be A plus 15. So that is the key here. So you multiply the average by n, then you have the representation for sum of ages of children. Let us interpret the statements of the problem paragraph by paragraph. Let us interpret the statements of the problem paragraph by paragraph. The sum of parents' ages, meaning at present, is twice the sum of their children's ages, understood to be also at present. If this is the sum of children's ages at present, the sum of parents' ages is twice that of their children. So this is 2 and A. 5 years ago, so this is a conditional statement, meaning what follows happens 5 years ago. The sum of parents' ages when? 5 years ago. Hindi to is ng present. This is past perfect tense. So this is of 5 years ago, meaning it's really was. Remove the 5 years ago, you have to say it in this manner. The sum of parents' ages was. It cannot be is. You follow? Because you are referring to 5 years ago. But if you begin your sentence with 5 years ago, a time condition, you can use here either was or is. You use is if you are storytelling or reporting. But if you are telling an information or narrating a history, you can use the was. Okay? Now, but is or was, you are referring to sum of parents' ages 5 years ago. So, if this is the sum of children's ages 5 years ago, 5 years ago, the sum of parents' ages is 4 times this. So, it is 4 times N, A, minus 5. And in 15 years, the sum of parents' ages, so this is a time condition. So what follows are all happening in 15 years, except otherwise specified. The sum of parents' ages will be equal to the sum of their children's ages. So if this is the sum of children's ages, the sum of parents' ages will be n, a plus 15 also. Let us set up now our key equations. So our key equation, remember, this is 5 years ago, present. So the time element here is 5 years. Present and 15 years from now, so the time element here is 15 years. So, considering the two parents, from 5 years ago to present, the difference of the sum of their ages is 2NA minus the sum of their ages 5 years ago, 4N A minus 5. This is equal to what? What do you think? This is 5 years times the number of people. So, 5 times 2. Bakit 5 times 2? Kasi yung difference ng age ng father from here to here is 5 years. And the difference of the age of mother from here to here is also 5 years. So, there are two people, there are 5 years. So, this is the years involved times the number of persons in the group. Kung children yan, then the multiplier is n. So, simplifying this, 2NA minus 4NA, that would be minus 2NA minus 4N times minus 5, this would be 20N is equal to 10. This is equation 1. Let me consider present to 15 years from now. 15 years. So the sum of parents' ages during this time, that's N times A plus 15 minus the sum of their ages at present to NA must be equal to 15 years times the number of persons in that group. This is 2. So, NA minus 2NA, this is minus NA. N times 15, this is 15N. And this is going to be equal to 30. You follow? Now, we have here two equations, two unknowns. Pwedeng yung NA mo, siya yung X, yung N mo, siya yung Y. You solve these two equations, two unknowns, you'll have your N represented in your calculator by Y. Your Y, which represents N, is going to be equal to 5. So there are 5 children. Let me repeat. For sum of age problem, you begin by representing the average age of the group of people whose number you do not know yet. If the average age is A, the sum of ages from the definition of average is N times the average. So, N times average. If A is the average at present, 5 years ago, it's A minus 5. 10 years ago, it's A minus 10. 15 years from now is A plus 15. 20 years from now, it's A plus 20. You follow? There are three problems in mathematics whose terms or terminologies look alike or similar. The word problem, algebra, calculus, and physics. All of them can use the word job, can use the word work, or can use verbs that indicates work. But how will you be able to distinguish them one from the other? Ganito. An algebraic word problem is such which contains only one unit, time. So you will know that it is algebra if the units of all given numbers are just unit of time. For example, in this question, you have 20 days, 30 days, 40 days. They are just unit of time, days, and there are no other units given. So this is a word problem. So word problem, the first thing to do is to represent the rate of worker. Worker could be a person, a machine, a tool, an instrument. Anything that does anything is a worker. So if T is the time that worker A worked, then the portion of work done by worker A for time T is rate times time. A times T. Now my principle here is this. I know you are familiar with the formula S is VT. S is displacement or distance. V is velocity, right? Velocity is distance per unit time. Distance per unit time times time is distance, right? Now remember that anything per unit time is rate. So velocity is rate of covering distance. So kung papalitan lang natin to, instead of distance, this is portion of work done. So work per unit time is the rate of doing work, right? Rate of doing work times time is the work or portion or amount of work done by the worker. So my concept is simply rate times time. That's why for word problem begin with the rate. Now if we will set T sub A as the time for worker A to finish the work alone, meaning the portion of work done by A for time T sub A is rate times T sub A. But what is the portion of work done? It's a finished work. So it means it's whole portion or complete work. So this is equal to 1. So the principle is when the work is completed or is finished, rate times time is 1. So from here we can see that A is 1 over T sub A, or T sub A is 1 over A. The time to finish the work alone and the rate are reciprocals. Okay? Let us have this one. A and B can do a piece of work in 20 days. B and C in 30, C and A in 40. The question is, how long will each worker can do the work alone? So we are asked here to find T sub A, T sub B, and T sub C. Okay? So let us solve for A, B, and C, because T sub A is 1 over A. It follows that T sub B, 1 over B, T sub C, 1 over C. Let's have it. Now, if A, B, and C are their respective rates, then condition number 1, A and B can do or can finish a piece of work in 20 days. In equation form, the contribution of A is the rate of A times the time of work, 20 days. Plus the contribution of B is the rate of B times the time he worked, 20 days. If A and B work for 20 days, the work is done or is finished. So this must be equal to 1. Let me call this equation 1. Condition number 2 says B and C can do it in 30 days. So the contribution of B is the rate of B times the time he worked, 30 days, plus the contribution of C is the rate of C times the time he worked, 30 days. If the two work together for 30 days, the work is done or is finished. So this must be equal to 1. Let me call this equation number 2. Now, C and A can do it in 40 days. The contribution of A is the rate of A times the time he worked, 40 days. Plus, the contribution of C is the rate of C times the time he worked, 40 days. A and C work for 40 days, they'll be able to do or finish the work. So this must be equal to 1. Let me call this equation 3. So it is simple. Rate times time, rate times time, rate times time. Just add the portion of work done by all workers, and that would be equal to 1 if completed. So 3 equations, 3 unknowns. Solve these 3 equations simultaneously, and you will get A to be 5 over 240. B is 7 over 240. And C is 1 over 240. These are their respective rates. So therefore, the time for worker A to finish the work alone is 1 over A. The time for B to finish the work alone is 1 over B. And the time for C to finish the work is 1 over C. So 1 over A is 240 over 5. So this is going to be 48 days. You give the work to A alone and he'll be able to finish it in 48 days. 1 over B is 240 over 7 days. So you give the work to B alone, he'll be able to finish it in 240 over 7 days. Which is shorter than 48, something like 34 days. Okay? You give the work to C alone 1 over C, that is 240 over 1 or 240 days. C is the slowest worker. So if you are a contractor and your worker is all C, the rate is C, mga petik-petik magtrabaho, malamang huling kontrata mo na. So, rate times time, rate times time, rate times time, when the work is finished or is completed, equals 1. And the time to finish the work alone and the rate are simply reciprocal. So, for you to understand it better, let's have situation letter B. If the 3 workers work together, hindi dalawahan lang, tatluhan, how long will they be able to finish the work? Okay. Now, in equation form, the contribution of worker A will be the rate of A times the time he worked. I am solving for the time for the 3 to finish the work working together. The contribution of B is the rate of B times the time he worked. The contribution of C is the rate of C times the time he worked. The time that we are looking for is the time where if the three work together, they'll be able to finish the work. So this must be equal to 1. So all you need to do is substitute A, substitute B, substitute C. You have A is 5 over 240. T. B is 7 over 240. T. C is 1 over 240. T. And this is equal to 1. One equation involving T will be able to solve our T. So 5 over 240 plus 7 over 240 plus 1 over 240 T, that would be 13 over 240 T, and this is equal to 1. So solving our T is going to be 240 over 13, and this would be days. This is only around 18 point something days. So if the three will work together, the three of them, it will be less than 20 days. Kuha? Now, the key here is to write or define the amount of solutes. Let us consider the amount of solute, the tin content. Considering the tin content, 50% of this is tin. Plus 100% of X, that is X, is tin. Plus 0% of Y is tin, or that is 0, is equal to 60% of this is tin. 60% of 700 plus X plus Y is tin. We simplify this. You have 0.5 times 700, this is 350, plus X plus 0 is equal to 0.6 times 700, this is 420, plus 0.6x, 0.6y. We transpose everything or every variable to the left, x minus 0.6x, this would be 0.4 of x. 0.6 times y, you have minus 0.6 of y is equal to 420 minus 350. This is 70. Let me call this as equation number 1. This time, let us consider the lead content. The lead content of this plus the lead content of this plus the lead content of this must be equal to the lead content of this. The problem states 25% of the 700 is lead. So 25% of 700 is lead. Plus 0% of X is lead. So that is 0. 100% of Y is lead. 100% of Y is Y. Is equal to 20% of 700 plus X plus Y is lead. We simplify this. You have 0.25 times 700. That is 175 plus Y is equal to 0.2 times 700. That is 140 plus 0.2 of X plus 0.2 of Y. Now, we move all variables to the left. I have minus 0.2 of X, Y minus 0.2Y, that is 0.8 of Y, is 140 minus 175 minus 35. This is 0.4x, this is 0.2x. So, let me make this 0.4 by multiplying this by 2. So, this is minus 0.4 of x plus 1.6 of y. 2 times minus 35 minus 70. Or you may just opt to use two equations, two unknowns, function of your calculator. So, this plus this, 0.4 minus 0.4x, 0. Minus 0.6 plus 1.6, that is y. 70 minus 70, 0. So, the amount of lead to be added is 0. That is to be expected. Why? Because from 25% lead, we want it reduced to 20% lead. You want to reduce, why will you add? Okay? Now, substituting y either to equation 1 or equation 2, you'll be able to get x. Substitute natin sa equation 1. You have here 0.4 of x minus 0 equals 70. So, x is 70 over 0.4. You calculate that. And you will get 175 kilograms. This is the amount of tin to be added. Whenever you notice that in the problem, two elements or two quantities will be mixed together, it's not necessary that the mixture will be chemicals. It could be chemicals, it could be money, it could be mangoes and bananas, it could be anything. It could be balat sa tinalupan. Whenever there is an implication that two things are mixed together, so that is a mixture problem. All you need to do is represent each mixture by a box. Inside it is the amount or quantity. On top of it is the percent of solute. Solute is the dissolved element. The dissolving element is called the solvent. And together, they're called the mixture. So, if percent of solute is not available or is not mentioned, then it could be anything that bears per unit. For example, price per piece, price per kilogram, or kung kaya, weight per unit, volume. Basta may per, will substitute per cent. The product of the two will give you the amount of solute or the portion being referred to by the fractional unit. Now, let me illustrate how to solve mixture problem in this question. How much tin and how much lead must be added to 700 kilograms of an alloy? What is an alloy? An alloy is a mixture of metals, no? Containing 50% tin and 25% lead to make an alloy which is 60% tin and 20% lead. So let us represent the given alloy by this box. Inside it, the quantity is 700 kilograms. On top of it, the percent concentration of solutes mentioned. There are 2% concentrations mentioned here, percent tin and percent lead. My question here, or somebody asked me a question, Sir, what is the remaining 25%? My answer is, I don't know. It's not mentioned in the problem. Perhaps it's copper, perhaps iron, perhaps gold, perhaps silver, or perhaps combination of other metals that are not tin, that are not lead. And whatever that 25% is, one thing I am sure of, it is not important or immaterial to the problem. Okay? Now, in here, we are asked to find how much tin and how much lead must be added to this in order to get a resulting alloy that is 60% tin and 20% lead. Let us say that we add X kilograms of tin, Y kilograms of lead. So if you have 700, you add X, you add Y kilograms, naturally you'll get 700 plus X plus Y kilograms. Now, before I write the key equation here, let me define the percent concentration of these two. This is tin. The reason this is called tin is because this must be 100% tin. Because if it is not 100% tin, it's not tin. It is an alloy, right? Pag ikaw hindi ka 100% na lalaki, hindi ka lalaki, di ba? Alloy ka. Okay? Alright. So, this is 100% tin, so that's why this must be 0% lead. By the same logic, this is lead, so this must be 100% lead, and thus, this must be 0% tin. Now, the key here is to write or define the amount of solutes.